Story 1. Putting everything about your life on the internet, what you ate, where you are, where you have worked, and who you are in a relationship with. Also photos of your newborn, where you are vacationing, where you go to the gym, and the plant-based milk alternative you prefer. The list goes on. Story 2. Paying a subscription for almost everything is becoming the norm. It has become too common not to own things outright. People accept paying indefinitely for services that previously required no ongoing fee. Cars now require subscriptions for features such as heated seats. The number of subscription-based services is astonishing. You end up overpaying for items that would have been cheaper to buy once. Movies, television shows, music, delivery, food, software, cars, news, games, multiplayer access, social networks, health and fitness services, merchandise, doorbells, and cameras are all moving to subscription models. Story 3. Oversharing everything is not necessary. It is okay to keep some things private. Story 4. The absolute lack of privacy is alarming. Even ordinary people are tracked by facial recognition software, and their purchases and preferences are sold to the highest bidder. Story 5. TikTok really made people dance in front of their phones in public places, and then they have the gall to be annoyed when others walk in front of them as if they are not in the fucking way. Story 6. Basic first aid should be just as commonly known as addition and subtraction, but it is not. Story 7. Constant use of phones causes people to be mentally absent in everyday situations. Story 8. Going about your day in a sea of near total strangers and enduring life with no real sense of community. Story 9. The total amount of time people stare at screens, whether it is a computer, phone, or television. Yes, I realize I am pointing this out while doing the same. Story 10. Overconsumption. Self-proclaimed influencers. Extreme fans. Hostile architecture designed to deter people experiencing homelessness. People becoming desensitized to violence and harm. People taking out their phones to record confrontations. The vague notion of micro-cheating. Skincare and makeup companies marketing to prepubescent girls and convincing them they need retinol. Then people blame these children as Sephora kids without recognizing the deeper issue. There are no age-appropriate places for them. Story 11. Teenage girls are essentially making softcore pornography on TikTok. Children should not have unsupervised access to social media. This is disturbing to me. Story 12. We do not treat each other like people. We are far too mean, especially on the internet. It is as if we have forgotten that other people have feelings, too. Story 13. Although people have virtually all the information in the world at their fingertips, many are more ignorant than ever. Story 14. Children are online sharing their age, full name, gender, sexuality, and an extensive list of mental illnesses and triggers they believe they have with total strangers before they can even grasp the concept of privacy. Story 15. Many things that people think are modern or new really are not. They have been around for a long time, if not forever. It is just that we hear about them much more now than in the past. Story 16. Not knowing how hard things are supposed to be can cause problems. For example, people leave when they hit a rough patch. I am not referring to clearly toxic situations, but to jobs or relationships that become difficult. We live in a grass is greener period and do not have a clear idea of how much hardship is normal to endure. This appears in many settings, such as quitting on the spot or not working to repair a relationship because we think other people's lives are perfect and they rarely argue. Conversely, we sometimes endure bad jobs or relationships because we assume this must be normal and everyone goes through it. Story 17. An obsession with acquiring things that are not necessary. It is really weird to me. Story 18. The internet and social media in particular have changed attitudes about public and private life in ways that seem weird or disturbing to many older people. For example, youthful indiscretions are now often public and archived forever. Story 19. People worship celebrities. Some would die for them. Celebrities do not care about you. Story 20. Parents film everything their children do and post it on social media for strangers just for likes. They ignore their children's safety and privacy. Story 21. going to work or social engagements knowing that you are infectious with some sort of disease. Story 22. Working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for years drains your best years. We could have a 3-day week with 6-hour days if we used progress and automation to improve people's lives instead of chasing ever-increasing profit and growth that destroys the planet. If people realized what kind of world we could live in, they would see how dystopian our society really is. Many grow up in this system and accept it as normal. Story 23. Receiving and answering a phone call when you are in the middle of a conversation with someone who is right in front of you is essentially the same as being interrupted by someone who walks into the room. Story 24. The utter obsession with brand name products, especially clothing, puzzles me. I understand the quality aspect, but when people buy them just because of a certain name, logo, or status, it baffles me. Story 25. Our entire economy experiences a major failure approximately every 3 years. Story 26. When everyone films at concerts, hardly anyone rewatches those videos, and it really takes you out of the present moment. Story 27. Kicking children out at 18 has some merit because it teaches independence. However, many other countries embrace multi-generational households. Living together is more efficient, and everyone benefits from one another. Story 28. Everyone is too reachable. I miss the days when you left a message at the beep. People seem less modest since Instagram. Story 29. Since 2016, around 40 million documents have been released detailing how millionaires, billionaires, public figures, and government officials from around the world have funneled boatloads of cash into offshore bank accounts. Meanwhile, the rest of us are suffering through some of the worst inflation and cost of living crises since the Great Depression, yet somehow many people care more about a metal travel mug. Story 30. We are extremely calm about the mass extinction that is happening. Everything is dying, and we seem fine with it so far. Story 31. Living in a developed country that is experiencing rising poverty and homelessness due to increases in the cost of food, fuel, utilities, and rent. Story 32. Children are on the internet the minute they are born. Their lives are public without their consent. Story 33. It bothers me that we knowingly buy clothing and other goods made with underpaid or exploited labor by workers in faraway countries. It has always bothered me, but lately it feels more urgent, so I am writing letters to stores, though they probably do not care. Story 34. Well, this week I guess it's making deepfake pornography of your neighbors and posting it online. I'm sorry, but that's not free speech and it isn't acceptable behavior. There's something seriously wrong with you. Story 35. Not really modern, but the 5-day workweek is crazy. 5 days working for the employer and only 2 days for yourself for the rest of your life. Story 36. This may be a uniquely United States problem. Many people live with alarming levels of debt. Lenders give 6-figure loans to high school graduates, claiming it will help them succeed. Some adults pay off one credit card with another. The United States federal debt is about 120% of gross domestic product. The debt system in the United States has been stretched to its limits. Foreign countries have begun buying fewer United States government bonds. There has been a large increase in loan and credit card defaults. The homeless population is the highest recorded since data collection began in 2007. Story 37. Less controversial than most topics here, but still strange in my opinion. Neckties. Why wear a piece of cloth that hangs from the neck, gets in the way, requires constant readjustment, restricts movement, and is a choking hazard? It is especially odd that in a formal men's suit, the necktie is the only item socially permitted to be decorated, while the rest is black and white. You are expected to look bland and uniform except for that one useless, annoying piece. Story 38. Children's school hours compared to normal working hours make it difficult to hold a full-time job. School is 2 to 3 hours shorter than the workday, and as parents we often have to drive halfway across town to drop off and pick up children who are too young to commute on their own. That leaves a feasible working day of about 5 hours while we are still expected to earn enough to pay for the roof over our heads. Story 39. What we accept as food has changed. Some of the things we eat these days are far removed from anything natural. They are just a bunch of chemicals thrown together and made to taste good with very little nutritional value, and companies are getting rich from it. Story 40. Our entire economic system is based on the idea that natural resources are inexhaustible. We still behave as if global warming will not destroy our current way of life. Story 41. The amount of sugar we consume every day is unprecedented. This has contributed to rising obesity rates. Story 42. Giving smartphones and high-end gaming personal computers to very young children 2 or 3 years old has become common. Some new parents give these devices to children unsupervised instead of providing proper care. Why care for your child when a phone can do it for you? I got an Xbox at age 7, the first technology one had, which I shared with my brother. My first phone was a Nokia 3310 at age 10. I think children today should get phones at age 10, not 3. It harms their development. I saw videos of young children who had their phones taken away and began throwing severe tantrums, as if experiencing withdrawal. It is frightening. Story 43. Having to drive everywhere and being unable to safely walk or bike between cities, small towns, or even within them in the United States is cruel to young people and the very old. Takes away their freedom. Story 44. Do you need an email address to create an account for everything? What happened to simply creating an account with a username and password and making email communication optional? Story 45. That you should lose everything if you get injured or sick. Story 46. Our current system, society, and economy have been pushing us into one of the worst mental health crises in decades. Anxiety disorders, depression, and similar conditions are through the roof. Almost everyone you see outside seems one bad day away from snapping. People are on edge, interacting as if everyone around them is out to get them. We are not okay. Story 47. Consuming fictional works such as movies, television, and novels that involve rape or sexual assault, and then discussing them while coding the words to avoid saying rape or sexual assault for reasons. If you are not capable of using those words, should you really be reading that book or watching that show? Story 48. The increasing pressure from society to always strive for more and to be better. Story 49. There are so many things history will look back on and think, what in the name of fuck were they thinking? There is too much to even begin a list. Story 50. Employers contact you during off hours and do not pay you for that time. For example, by requiring responses to emails. It may not seem unusual, but it should not happen. Technology has made life simpler in some ways and more complex in others. Story 51. War is basically embedded in us on every continent except Antarctica, which may not remain the case for much longer at the rate we are headed. Story 52. Taking pictures and videos of strangers and posting them online terrifies me. I dread the idea that one day I might scroll Instagram and find a video of myself on the street with a hateful caption and a full set of comments mocking me. Story 53. Subscription-based ownership. The minute Bayerisch Motor and Werke introduced subscription-based features for their cars, such as heated seats, I knew this had become too normalized. Story 54. People regularly involve themselves in matters that do not concern them, especially in international affairs, treating politics and trade as a sport to watch. Story 55. Sharing locations. I think I have about 15 of my friends' map coordinates at all times. They also have mine, which seems insane, but we are all so used to it. It gives me peace of mind. My friends can check on me if they are worried. I can see how much longer it will take them to get to dinner and whether they are out of town. Sure, it could easily be exploited. It is a risk you take, but you can always remove anyone you suspect of abusing it. I had no idea how controversial this would be when I posted. In my age group and younger, this is completely normal and no one has issues. It is not like we receive notifications every time someone leaves the house. It is completely consensual and most people are not even checking it often. The primary uses are seeing how far someone is from a hangout, making sure they are safe on a date with someone new, or checking where they are before I call to make sure it is not an inappropriate time. I feel like most people who are reacting think they are being tracked and recorded at all times, and that is not my experience. Story 56. Insurance companies. How is it considered normal to make an appointment, receive a medical service, and then get an enormous bill weeks later. Often you have to fight with the insurance company to have it reduced. The more you learn about them, the more dishonest they seem. Story 57. Ritual circumcision. I would even go so far as to say it is a downright disgusting practice. Story 58. Marketing, or the art of trying to convince you to buy things you do not need. Story 59. Healthcare and housing are not human rights. They are commodities. Story 60. You are supposed to be grateful for dead-end jobs. I got a crappy job to pay my rent, and everyone kept asking me if I am excited to start. No, I am not excited. Why ask? Story 61. OnlyFans and other sex workers. I will die on this hill. Story 62. Using grown adults for teenage film roles. Sets unrealistic beauty standards. Removes the magic and youthfulness of the characters. Causes actors to appear too old in later seasons. Story 63. Everything connected to social media. Sharing private information. Being accessible to everyone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and having people vote on or like your life. Story 64. Talking on your speakerphone in public or playing music loudly on your phone for everyone to hear. Story 65. I find factory farming of animals to be weird and offensive. Most people think nothing of where their protein comes from. Story 66. The fact that war still exists blows my mind. With so much knowledge, scientific progress, interconnectivity, and cultural and linguistic understanding, how can both the greatest minds and ordinary people still consider war and bloodshed acceptable ways to resolve conflicts? Story 67. Putting billions of animals inside hellish factory environments so they suffer their entire lives until they are killed and dismembered for 50-cent Wing Wednesday, shitty McDonald's hamburgers, and bacon addiction is so wrong. Many people are comfortable with an out-of-sight, out-of-mind attitude on this issue. Story 68. For a given definition of modern, there are about 1.5 billion dogs and cats in households worldwide. 1 century ago, there were about that many people globally. A century before that, 900 million. In the year zero, there were about 200 million people worldwide. The population of cats and dogs in just the United States of America is around that. Prior to that, the human population was very stable for thousands of years. It is strange there are so many dogs. If the dog population were transplanted back to ancient Roman times, there would be almost 5 dogs for every human. But when we imagine Rome, we tend to picture it as broadly as populous as today. Constantinople, one of the most important and populated cities in the historic period before the modern era and the largest city the world had seen by 500 Anno Domini, had around 250,000 people. That's comparable to Boise, Idaho. Taking the long view, the difference between 500 Anno Domini and 2000 Anno Domini is about 0.5% of human history. For 99.5% of the time, nothing like this happened, and then suddenly there are dogs everywhere. Story 69. Drinking has become so normalized that if you do not drink, you are considered strange. Alcohol is a drug, and whether to use it should be a serious decision, but we treat it like something people just do. Many people who would have been better off without alcohol have spiraled into problems because society insists it is something everyone does. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.